There are only 8 northern white rhinos left on Earth. 4 of them are now in Kenya, having been brought here from a Czech zoo. In the 1960s, there were about 2,000 of them. Now, in 2011, they are extinct in the wild. Standing right next to these 4, newly arrived in Kenya, was a very eerie experience, as the continued survival of this species is virtually impossible. It does give us even more impetus to continue. What if they were the last 4 elephants? Kenya is a stunningly beautiful country, with wild open spaces, spectacular wildlife, and growing quite quickly. The population growth is one of the highest on Earth. Environmental education is not taught at the schools. With the growing population, the pressures on rural people to make a living are putting enormous stresses on the limited natural resources, and all are struggling in various ways. Wildlife is suffering. People are not thriving, as they are often living on land that is marginal, with frequent severe drought, farming depleted soil, taking the few trees that are left for fuel, and resorting to killing wildlife for food or income. Our goal is to help change that situation for the benefit of all. Elephants are the keystone species in their environment. They eat and knock down trees, eat the seeds, and replant them as they move around. They're very special animals, very much like us. They live as long as we do, grow up like we do. An 8-year-old elephant is like an 8-year-old human. It can't live on its own. It doesn't know where to go, how to act. It needs its mother for guidance until it's in its early teen years, just like humans. They're amazing creatures. They're incredibly smart. There is so much more. People are learning about them all the time. And they're extremely endangered. They also have a 22-month gestation period, which means elephants can only reproduce every 6 to 9 years. So when populations get diminished, it takes a lot longer for them to recover than most other mammals. There was a statement made by a highly respected conservation biologist named Sam Wasser, saying that the way things are going now, in 20 years all the African elephants could be extinct in the wild. That's a pretty serious statement to be made in 2011, in a world where most people think that ivory trade is illegal. You know, they banned the ivory trade in 1989, but they've allowed one-off sales of ivory, and every time they do, poaching just soars everywhere. As soon as people start talking about ivory trade, just even talking about voting on it, poaching goes way up. It's a lose-lose situation, that one. Ivory trade. There are 2 basic forms of poaching. One is for bushmeat, using snares. The other is for elephant tusks and rhino horn, using poisoned arrows, spears, and more often guns. Elephant poaching statistics are hard to verify given that it's an illegal activity, but over 10% of the elephant populations are being poached per year right now in 2011. That's at least 38,000 a year and over 100 a day. People set snares for antelope, but they often will end up taking a lion or even an elephant. A snare is like a landmine. It takes anything that touches it. It's not subsistence snaring. It's not a guy out feeding his family. That would be sustainable. The horrible part about this is it's commercial. It's greed. It's poachers out killing 30 to 40 animals a night. Current estimates are that over 500,000 animals are snared every year around Tsavo alone. Amara started out supporting others doing anti-poaching and animal rescue efforts, building a summer nursery school, and providing support to the Kenya Wildlife Service. They're very important things to do. But for us at Amara, the best use of our time is to teach people the importance of a healthy environment, the reasons why not to set snares to begin with, the impact that humans have. That's the only way the destructive activities will ultimately stop happening. Amara was the first in Kenya to develop a mobile system for showing films in rural areas, and seeing things really is believing. The people who really need the information that's contained in the films are the people who live out in rural places, who live with a wildlife conflict, and whose activities impact the environment the most. We show films in schools in the daytime and in villages at night. We now have 2 mobile film units, each with a generator, projector, speakers, a screen that can be hung from a wall, tree, or off the Land Rover, so we can set up anywhere people can gather. A baraza is a community meeting where all important things are decided in rural Kenya. Our baraza program is an outgrowth of having worked with the Kenya Wildlife Service, conducting workshops on bushmeat in the poaching hotspots around Tsavo. These meetings are very important places to address local conservation issues. We've worked with some communities doing capacity building training, bringing in experts on agriculture, wildlife, and community development to help them implement new livelihoods. The formation of a new wildlife conservancy is one of our key successes. On a group-owned area of land in the most critical elephant dry season habitat, an area of high human-elephant conflict right on the border of Tsavo East and West, it's the perfect place to set up a wildlife sanctuary. We found a safari company that's very community-oriented to come and see the place, realize how beautiful it is. What the community puts in is the land. What the company puts in is the money to build the lodge, set up the conservancy, train and pay locals as lodge staff, game scouts, to keep the wildlife safe. All the community members own the group ranch and will get a monthly income directly, so everybody benefits. What ends up happening is the wildlife will have a safe place to live, and then the people will see the wildlife as an income builder. And it's critical for the animals to have that land kept safe, so it's a win-win for everybody. One of the things we've begun doing is teaching about tree planting. Kenya's got a serious deforestation problem, and it threatens many of the ecosystems. It brings drought, the soil erodes. There are a lot of bad things that happen when you don't have enough tree cover. A single fully grown tree in a canopy sequesters 75 liters of water, for example. Teaching children to gather their own seeds of indigenous good trees, make their own seed beds out of what is existing there, rocks and twigs and stones, and plant the seeds, sprout them, grow seedlings, and then replant them where they want them to grow. A tree means a lot more to someone if they've picked the seed, built the bed to plant it in, nourished it till it sprouted and became a tree, and they've cared for it. It's like their baby, and they will take care of it much better than if someone just gives it to them. Working closely with Kenya Wildlife Service and in partnership with Radioactive UK, we're now working to set up a community-based radio station. We're calling it Radio Tsavo.
You are listening to your favorite program, You and Wildlife, empowering you on wildlife issues. Karibuni!
The goal of the station is to share knowledge about the environment, address local conservation needs, and the most important idea of it is to open engaging dialogue connecting the residents with any authority that can be helpful to them, and connecting them to each other. It's going to be a really essential community radio station, which will also be mobile, as some of the time it will travel around in our Land Rover. We're really excited about it. Amara is really well received by the communities. They know us now in most of the places that we go well enough to know that all we do is bring information. Education is really the only thing that will work. You can't legislate it. You can't do it from the top down and shake your finger at somebody and threaten jail. The only thing that will actually change things is when people realize that they don't want to do things anymore for really good reasons. They want to make positive changes. We have to give them skills and tools to change their lives the way they want to. I don't have all the answers, certainly, to the problems. But if people are informed, then they can find their own answers with an environmental perspective.